What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett. This is episode 29. So there's no guest this week. So going solo. Been a couple weeks with guests. No guest this week, but there will be one next week. With that being said, we're going to jump into today's topic. We're going to talk about the 3 stress traps. So last week, I did a masterclass, a hormone masterclass covering a whole bunch of hormones specifically for women. And we dropped some serious knowledge bombs. People took a lot away from that call. Or that masterclass. It was over 2 days. But there are a couple of things that popped up a bunch. So while you can't get the recording unless you were registered for it or you're a client of PwC, there were 3 things I think are important to talk about when it comes to hormones and hormone dysregulation and stress. So stress keeps coming up. And that's because for most people, like 99% of the population, stress is the primary driver of dysregulation. And not getting a handle on it is, well, most people don't get a handle on it. And then it just drives a vicious circle where it gets worse and worse and worse. And that's a problem because whether it's lack of sleep, your nutrition's deficient, you're doing too little or too much exercise, that's all an issue and a driver of increasing stress on top of work, commute, blah, 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 blah. But there are 3 things in particular that become vicious cycles that just drive your stress levels higher. Your stress hormone cortisol just drives higher, higher, higher until you fucking burn out. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's the 3 different traps we get into. So the first, with that being said, before we dive into it, I just want to let you know, everyone, that it is March. So it's March 6th when this is coming up. PwC has roster opening for 5 new clients for March. So if you're interested in joining our coaching program, there are 5 spots available for the month of March. All you have to do is click the link down in the show notes. You will apply for one of the positions after a quick conversation with me. If you're a good fit, then we will get things started. But with that being said, let's get into it. All right. So 3 stress traps. The first one being the cortisol insulin snack trap. So this is where some of this, the shitty information about insulin and insulin being a boogeyman has come out, and it's really not insulin's fault. Insulin dysregulation is bad. Let's not complain about that. But people that treat insulin like it's this terrible hormone. And the fact of the matter is there are no bad hormones. People treat insulin like it's terrible. It's fucking awful. The reality is insulin helps reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, the hormone we're going to be talking about a lot today. And even cortisol has health benefits. It's an important hormone, but too much of it and dysregulation is bad. For the reference for the rest of this podcast, testosterone is a really important hormone. Men who have low T tend to have depression and everything, but everyone knows what happens when they get too much testosterone, like steroids, way too much, get roid rage. There's a lot of health complications, high blood pressure. A lot of bodybuilders are dying off their 40s and 50s who abuse steroids and don't do PED safely. Not that I recommend it, but there is a safe way and a not so safe way to use them. Not that I've ever used them, but being in the bodybuilding world, I learned quite a bit, and that's a weird world to get into. So think of it like that. When we're having dysregulation, it's like having too much or too little, not the normal healthy amount. So when it comes to insulin, for example, insulin is important for converting thyroid hormone, T4, or inactive form of thyroid hormone, to T3. It's involved in that process. So without insulin, you don't actually convert your thyroid hormone into the active hormone, which is what is in charge of your metabolic rate. So it doesn't raise your metabolic rate, it normalizes it. So without it, you're slowing your metabolic rate down. Insulin is also important for helping with leptin, which is what helps you not eat out of house and home. That's a very important hormone that we're not going to talk about today. blood's involved in that and a bunch of other processes. The insulin's like it affects all of them. So if you're trying to like reduce insulin as much as possible, really, like a ketogenic diet is not natural for long term. Regardless, that what is the cortisol insulin trap? So cortisol insulin trap is you get sky high stress levels for whatever reason. Work's crazy, you had a shitty commute, fight with your spouse, kids' sports schedules are insane and they're overlapping, and you're not sure how you're going to get one because there was a rain delay. Now there you have to be two places at once. Whatever it is, your stress level's really, really high. So this usually like mid morning or afternoon. Your stress levels are skyrocketing, cortisol skyrocketing. And one thing that cortisol does is it tries to raise blood glucose. But with stress going up, 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 your body starts to want to get that dopamine hit. And one way that it helps to regulate insulin is, or sorry, regulate cortisol, and cortisol is going up, is to get insulin release. So get some carbs in, which gives you that dopamine release and it helps bring insulin down. Now, the thing is, what most people do is not run to the break room and grab a sweet potato or oatmeal. You're going to run and grab a candy bar. You're going to run and grab potato chips because you're also craving like salty or sweet. I'm a sweet person myself. So you run and you grab that. And then you get this blood sugar spike. So it spikes up and you get this massive insulin release. And then you get the crash and then you start to get hangry. And now what happens is even though you blunted cortisol a little bit, you're still stressed out. So it's still being released. But the blood sugar drops down and gets low. And now the body's like, oh shit, it's low. It's time to pump out more cortisol to raise the blood sugar back up. Okay, crap. Now I'm hungry again. Gonna run, grab a treat again, grab some snacky bullshit. Insulin goes way up and then it crashes. And you see this cycle repeat. So this is where I'm not going to name the book specifically, but it's a really shitty book. Actually, no, I am going to name it Obesity Code. He was almost on the dot. However, he blamed insulin when the reality was it was too much snacking is the cause of eating too many calories. You're getting these insulin spikes up and down, and that's causing your hunger to go off wonky. So people have been eating 6 to 8 times per day and losing weight. So it's not that eating 6 to 8 times a day is bad. It's when it's uncontrolled. When you're eating snacky bullshit, you run and grab a soda. You run and grab the sugary coffee. You run and grab a candy bar or chips or something like that multiple times a day. And you get caught in the cycle of insulin up, calories in, crash, crap, cortisol spikes to help raise blood sugar. Now you're starting to crave something. You have that blood sugar crash. Next thing. And then all along, these foods aren't good for us. So they're promoting inflammation, possibly causing long term more cortisol release. So that's the cortisol insulin snack trap of you get into this cycle of like grazing all day long. And you're just getting these ups and downs with your insulin all day long. It's a literal fucking roller coaster. And this is a problem when people are like, I don't eat too much. I graze. If you are a grazer, stop it right fucking now. You're a human, not a cow. Cows graze, humans eat meals. Now it can be 6 or 8 small meals, or it could be 2 meals. It can be 3 meals. It can be 4 meals. Personally, I'm a 4 meal person. It's up to fucking you, but you're not a fucking cow. You're not grazing. Grazing is the worst thing you can do when it comes to nutrition because you're not grazing on sweet potatoes, brown rice, and chicken breast and broccoli. You're grazing on, well, you grazed a little bit on the chicken and broccoli, but then you're also having the frappuccino. Then you're also having the energy drink, the coffee, the chips, the cookies, the brownies in the break room, etc. If you are a grazer and you don't believe me, prove me wrong. Track everything that goes in your fucking mouth for a week and send it to me. And prove to me that your calories aren't wonky for your activity level if you feel like grazing is not bad for your weight and your health. Do it. Do it right now and send it over to me in a week. So whatever next week would be next Monday. So do it. Go for it. There's my challenge to you if you're a grazer, but get the fuck out of that trap. So try to eat only at dedicated meal times and have things planned. If you know that you're going to have a drop in your blood sugar at certain times or you get hungry at certain times, instead of like, just going to try not to eat. Yeah. How has that worked out for you for the past, I don't know, 10 years? It hasn't. Oh, okay. Maybe we should plan on it, making it work. Maybe we should plan like a meal in there. This will be people come to me and like, okay, I try not to eat after 8. Okay, cool. So I see you eat in your diary, you eat every night at 10. Yeah, I get really hungry at that time. So you're trying not to eat at 8. Yeah, I heard it's bad for me. Debatable, but you go to bed at 11. Yep. So you eat every night at 10. Yes. Maybe we should plan for a snack at like 9. Yeah, but I heard it's bad for me. Well, if we plan for a snack, you won't binge on ice cream, yogurt, and chips all at once. You'll have one of those. Oh, that makes sense. So this is where trying to make the knowing where you get hungry and making this work for you is best. The other thing is people will try to like, I'm going to go on a diet and I'm going to limit my how many calories I eat at each meal. And you eat like a 200 calories for lunch. And then you're like, I don't know why, just no energy in the afternoon. And I just want to binge on everything. Like maybe you should eat 2 sweet potatoes, a giant chicken breast, and a bunch of broccoli. That's too much food. I would never lose weight. Really? It didn't stop you from eating 2 Snickers bars, which is the same amount of calories. That's too much food. I could never eat that. Well, you ate the equivalent in the 2 Snickers bars. Or the Frappuccino, that's 800 calories. Didn't stop you there. That's different. Yes, it is. Eat the chicken breast. All right. So that's number one. Number two is my favorite one to talk about, not because it's fun, but it's a really, really vicious. And once you realize it, you need to get yourself the fuck out of it. I've been in it. It's not good. This is the caffeine alcohol cycle. So this one's nasty because it deals with sleep. So this, a lot of Americans deal with this, and it's a major cause in the sky high cortisol levels and just burning out. You're literally burning the candle at both ends. So depending on how we want to do, it can start wherever we want. We're just going to pick a point. You had a shit day at work. It was stressful. You're stressed the fuck out. So you come home and you're like, fuck this. Break open the wine, break open the whiskey, get a couple IPAs out, whatever your drink of choice is, you're going to go and you're going to have some alcohol. So you have a few drinks, not one drink, like you have a few drinks to like get the edge off. So you have the alcohol. The problem with alcohol is that sleep is disrupted by alcohol. You don't one drink doesn't shut off REM, but it decreases how much REM you have, and it keeps decreasing with every drink you have. So uh essentially you can think if you have more than 2 drinks, you're not getting any REM sleep. You are getting a little bit, but it's so insignificant that you're not getting deep, restful sleep. Yes, you might sleep a long time. So think back if you were partying in college, like, did you ever have amazing, restful sleep after a night of drinking? No. Even if you slept 12 hours, like you felt like shit the next day. Yeah, same thing here. So even if it's one drink, one, one, one drink affects your sleep. So if you have a drink, especially at night before your body can get rid of it, um, it's going to disrupt your sleep. Disrupted sleep is a stress. So, one, you wake up tired. Two, lack of sleep, especially deep sleep, is a stress on the body. So, that's going to go up. And sleep is amazing in that it's either a stressor or removes stress from your life. So, if you get adequate sleep and plenty of deep sleep, the 7 to 9 hours, it removes stress. If you get less than that, it adds stress to your life. So it's one of the few like almost black and white things. I'm sure there is a continuum there, but you can essentially say it's either adding or subtracting from your stress load. Uh, for probably, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 of you listening to this podcast, you need to reduce your stress load. So get sleep is the number one thing to managing your stress. If you can start anywhere, it's sleep. So alcohol is going to fuck it up. So then you wake up the next morning tired. Like you feel groggy. You're maybe you got a little bit of a hangover because it wasn't the best quality of wine that you drank, and you drank three quarters of the bottle. So you're tired. So, okay, I need my coffee and I'm going to have an extra cup. Well, coffee spikes cortisol and adrenaline. And a lot of people just skip breakfast. So you're going to have your coffee and on an empty stomach, guess what? That spikes it. You know, it's a good way to blunt insulin, like stop it from continuously rising, because it's going to rise the highest in the morning. It's food. Food does that, specifically insulin, the boogeyman we talked about before. So that's going to help blunt the response. But if you're just going and having coffee and then you rush off to work, you have another stressful day. And now you're tired now. So now in the afternoon, you need that extra cup of coffee just to get through the day. Well, great, but except caffeine for the average person has a half life of 6 hours. So, easiest way to put this is let's say, for sake of keeping things simple, a standard cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams of caffeine. Now, that's not an American standard cup of coffee. Most American cups of coffee have more because we drink more, myself included. But for sake of argument, 100 milligrams of caffeine. That means 6 hours later, there's 50 milligrams of caffeine. If you're not a slow metabolizer of it, if you're a slow metabolizer, it takes even longer to get rid of it. So you still have caffeine in your system, except you added to the half life again is 6 hours. So 100 to 50, 50 to 25. You see how long this takes to get out of your system. A lot of people, myself included, we're going around with caffeine in our system all the time, but it's the dose that makes the poison. So if you're drinking way too much, that's a problem. So you have caffeine in the afternoon that spikes cortisol and adrenaline. Oh, fuck. Okay. Now you get home and you feel like you can't relax. Like you're trying to cool off. So to take the edge off, you have some alcohol to take the edge off that the caffeine caused from the afternoon. So then you go to sleep, your sleep's disrupted. Cycle continues. Next morning, you wake up, fuck. Okay. Now your average is 3 cups of coffee every single morning. Oh my God. Now you need 2 cups of coffee in the afternoon instead of one. You get home and you're like, why do I'm so tired, but I'm so wired at the same time. And this is something cortisol does. Cortisol works. It's the opposite of melatonin. So melatonin rises at night. Cortisol rises in the morning. It's highest in the morning. But if you're spiking your cortisol, it might inhibit melatonin, keeping you awake because you need melatonin to fall asleep. Big reason why you don't want bright lights when you are trying to right before bed, because that will inhibit melatonin release and then you'll have trouble. Fun fact, melatonin doesn't keep you asleep. It just helps you get to sleep. People don't know that. So you you just keep spiking. Your cortisol just keeps rising because you're just alcohol. So alcoholics, daily drinkers, like lots of alcohol, those people have average cortisol levels 2 to 3 times higher than the average non-drinker. And while I didn't look at the study, so I'll be honest, I'm sure the non-drinker in there is probably the average person, which is already stressed the fuck out. So the average cortisol is 2 to 3 times higher than the average person who's already stressed out. So you see how this is a cycle. You drink alcohol to take the edge off. You use one drug, alcohol, it disrupts your sleep. Then you need caffeine that spikes cortisol. You then have caffeine again that spikes cortisol even more in the afternoon. Then you need to take the edge off. And both those things are disrupting your sleep. And sleep is the one thing that can take cortisol away, but you keep disrupting it. And that's also only if you're getting enough sleep. You might only be getting 5 or 4 hours of sleep per night. If you're doing that, that's even worse. And this is a very vicious cycle where you have to realize you're in it and you have to just, usually the easiest thing is cut the alcohol out. Cut back on the amount of caffeine, probably not cutting it out completely because you're probably going to be fucking tired. You can, people do it. I don't. But watch how much caffeine you're having, cut it back, and then cut the fucking alcohol out. Like weekday alcohol, cut the fuck out. Your bank account's also going to like you for that. So that's the cortisol, or sorry, the caffeine alcohol trap people get into. It's very, very common. At least with a lot of the clients I've worked with, it's very common. And then once you can break out of it, your energy levels are actually way better. You're like, you kind of get stuck. Something has to break the vicious cycle. Most vicious cycles, you have to figure out where you can break. What's the easiest thing to break? And usually it's, why the fuck are you drinking? Oh, you don't have any stress management skills? Maybe we should implement some stress management skills. When's the last time you did deep breathing? Do you journal at all? Do you list out your, like, what do you need to do when you get home? Like, are you getting home and you're just stressed the fuck out? Like, can we do implement some things for stress management? Journaling, deep breathing, meditation, something like that. What can we do? Because if you don't have a stress management skill, you're going to be fucked. Which takes us to point three. It's I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'm too busy. I'm just too busy to worry about stress management. I'll worry about that later. Like, no, you need to worry about that now. So in the hormone masterclass I did, I presented a graph. So I can't show you guys the graph right now. Most of you are going to be listening to this anyways, and I'm not going to show this on a reel that when I clip the Zoom clip. So there's a graph of the response that all animals, including humans, have with cortisol. So if you can visualize this really quick, so there's going to be a initial response. So a stress. Now, this can be a good stress, exercise. This can be a bad stress, someone cutting you off and being an asshole and your commute to work and you nearly get into an accident. Regardless, your boss breathing down your neck, not getting enough sleep. It can be whatever stress it is. The response is the same. And this is where people will be like, oh, but this is a good stress. Like, yeah, except your body responds to stress the same way. If it's good stress and you let the stress response happen in the manner it's supposed to be, it makes it stronger and you actually can handle more stress in the future. But if you don't, you burn yourself the fuck out. So you get the stress response and you get the spike in cortisol and it goes up, 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 up. And it gets to a point and then it starts to level out and starts to come down. And people are like, oh, or coming down, except the stress is still there. So what's happening is your adrenal, this is like adrenal fatigue, which isn't really a thing. It's just the normal response. One of the hormones is DHEA, and this is what happens with dysregulation is DHA stays low because it counters cortisol, counters a lot of the effects. So when you get dysregulation, this hormone is staying low. But right now it's high. But you have the stress, cortisol starting to come down because the stress hasn't removed and your body's still trying to fight it. And there's this period. So it comes down. And if the stress is removed, now it comes down and kind of levels off and your body gets stronger. Kind of like rest periods with the gym. You go to the gym, you actually leave the gym weaker, your body repairs itself, it gets stronger. Problem with stress, and it's literally the same thing happens with stress. When you exercise is the best thing you can do to make your body more capable of handling daily fucking life. Like people, there's a reason like a lot of entrepreneurs exercise. You see a lot of them fit, especially now with more and more research, because exercise literally teaches the body to better handle stress. You can better handle those cortisol responses. But I digress back to my original point. So you get stronger. If the stress is still there, it keeps going and you enter what's called the collapse or exhaustion phase. That's really fucking bad. So it's like, well, cortisol is really low at this point. Isn't that a good thing? Well, one, a lot of times DHEA is also low, which is going to be what counters cortisol. But cortisol is also very anti-inflammatory and helps keep your immune system strong. So remember, there are no bad hormones. They're only bad in dysregulated states, in states of too much or too little, or unbalanced. Unbalanced is another state. So fuck. Inflammation, it's anti-inflammatory. Think cortisol shots. What do cortisol shots do? They reduce inflammation so you don't have pain. Cortisone. Did I say cortisol? Cortisone shots. Cortisone, cortisol, and the same word. Yeah, that's the same class. So now inflammation is starting to spike in the body. And now your immune system's down. So inflammation is bad for literally everything. Excess inflammation is bad for everything. The underlying cause for many chronic diseases. So you're just having inflammation spike up. Now your body's sending out all these signals that aren't good for it, and your immune system's tanked. So this is, you probably imagine in your life, like, if I'm barely keeping things together, but as long as everything stays together, I will be fine. But you're barely holding your shit together, and all of a sudden you get sick, and you're like, oh my god, why is me? Well, it's the stress response, and it's not taking account, knowing how your body's not going to be able to keep handling that. It's designed to go in spurts. So my business coach has told me, you can think of spurts in like daily, weekly, and also like monthly or quarterly. So like daily, like we can all really only like focus for like 90 minutes at a time. And some people more, some people less. But ideally, like you can really only hyper focus on a task for about that long. If you continue trying, like you kind of get burnt out. Um, Weekly, we need rest periods. A lot of times this weekend, but if my business coach said, like, when it's with your business, try every like 12 weeks, like in a quarter. The quarter is 13 weeks. Go 12 weeks hard, 1 week off. 12 weeks hard, 1 week off. Do that. So plan your quarter, 12 weeks hard, 1 week off. And that doesn't necessarily mean 1 week off work, but maybe, as an entrepreneur, I get to set my own schedule, but maybe those days I'm only working 5 hours per day. Okay. And then I come back and I can go, it's not to be like, oh, being like, no, it's so that the following week I'm not burnt out and I can go back and 100% in. So it's like planning mini vacations, mini breaks, stuff like that. But you can use this with yourself, but people won't. People try to just like grind it out. You can only grind it out for so long until a couple things happen. You get burnt out, you get sick, or you get or injured. It's either one of those or a combination of those. So this happens in the gym. People will try to start out and they're going like 6 days a week. They're like, I am doing this. I don't care. Like if how sore I get, like, no, 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 no. You need it back. No, you can't tell me what to do. I'm showing up to the gym. I bought this membership. I'm using it to the best of my capabilities. Okay, well, we'll plan recovery days. No, I'm going hard. And then it's like 4 or 5 weeks in, and then the person like gets sick or injured or burnt. It's one of those three. They either get sick, they get injured, or they get burnt out. They fall off, and then because they never built a habit that's sustainable, you never see them again for another like 6 months. So planning out, okay, here's what my body's capable of, and also here's the actual timeline of like, okay, I'm super high stress. So this past week, putting on the masterclass, very high stress. So I knew on the back end of that, I'm going to need some recovery time. So I knew Saturday completely off. Usually I might do a little bit, like post something online or do something. Nope, nothing until like Sunday night, actually, when I'm recording this. I just need that time to recover so that the next week, because this upcoming week's taxes, some other bullshit. Plus, we're putting it on together. Cool thing. Our first like in-person hiking event. So we're putting like, I'm going to need to have like full mental capacity going into this next week. So I know I need with my body that recharge time so I can do that. If I try to grind it out, I'm going to be burnt out. I'm going to be coming into Monday at like 60%. Like, cool, 60%, and then you don't recover all week. That's another thing is people think like you're an iPhone battery, you just plug it in at night and you're 100%. Like, no, a lot of times we're going through the week. Like, if you're just grinding things out, you have no stress management skills, you might start a lot of people don't start this way. But let's say you start Monday at 100%, Tuesday's 90%, Wednesday's 80%, Thursday's 70%. And oh my God, thank God it's Friday. And Friday, maybe it's going to be 60%. And then it's like weekend. This is another trap. People go, weekend, time to party. Let's drink. Guess what? Fucks up your sleep. So then you don't come into Monday at 100%. You come in at like 85%. And Tuesday is now 75%. And then Wednesday is 65%. That was basically Friday. And then Thursday's 55. And then you're 45 by Friday. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so burnt out. I just need a drink. Then you come into Monday at 80 and you see how this slowly lowers. Well, guess what happens when you get to zero? You get burnt out, you get sick, or you get injured. That's a problem. That's a big problem. So when this is the I'll sleep when I'm dead, I'm too fucking busy to worry about stress management. Stress management skills are the one of the most important things you can do. And actually, to get from level one, our base camp program, to level two, ascent in our the PWC program, you have to have implemented a stress management protocol because we're adding more responsibilities and things for you to do to speed up your results. So one of those things to help you manage when shit hits the fan in your life, which it does all the time, is going to be that. It's going to be actually being able to manage the stress and not fall off track again, because we're coming up to summer. So I'm seeing a lot of people being very successful at the gym, and it's awesome to see. But I also know what's about to happen because I see it every fucking year for the past, well, since I've been a coach 10 years, but longer than that, since I've been working out for 17 years. What's about to happen is everyone's going to fall off for summer, probably 80%. That means 20% will keep going, 80% are going to fall off for summer. And then you'll wait all summer. And of the 80%, 60% of them will get back on track in September, August, September, late August, early September. They'll get back on track. And then all of a sudden it's end of October, they're off track. And then they wonder where the year went. They wonder why they're stuck. They're never getting results because they're burnt out and they never implement stress management protocols and they never implement a year-long plan. Like, hey, let's look ahead. And that's one thing about stress management. So when I'm saying stress management skills, which now let's talk about that real quick before ending this podcast. We're talking about stress management. How do we actually reduce stress? First of all, it's sleep. Like, there's no way around it. Get the most, like, try to aim for 56 hours per week of sleep. That's 8 hours per 8 times 7, 8 hours times 7 days a week, 56. I think I did my math right. On the low end, that's 49 hours, 7 times 7. That's the low end. And then on, you can go 9 hours upper end, depending. Some people need that if you're working out really hard. Sleeping more isn't a sign of weakness. Like, if you are working out really hard, you have a high stress life, like, you need more sleep. It's your body's time to recover. It's not for the weak. And anyone who says that is a fucking idiot. They have no concept of human biology. And some people, like 1%, actually, no, the statistics are out. It's less than 1% of people can do well with less than 7 or 6 hours of sleep. Less than 1%. Now, when we're talking about billions of people, there's a decent amount. But those are people who be like, oh, I do this and I'm just fine. Really? Let's take a look at your blood work. Are you just fine? You're 40 years old and been doing this. Let's take a look at your blood work. Are you fine? Really? How's your levels of inflammation? What's your sex hormones at? What's your cortisol at? Let's take a nice hard look and see, are you actually fine? Because having a C minus on health isn't fine. Like, B plus. B plus is fine. A plus is perfect, obviously. Don't have to say that. Very few people will ever be at that, but B plus is really good. C minus, not so much. So, easy thing. Sleep is number one. That trumps all. Um, Exercise is not stress reducing. It is not therapeutic. It can't, or sorry, it is not therapy. It can have therapeutic effects, but right dosage. So a lot of people will be, and I've been guilty of this in the past, of just doing high intensity stuff. You need to realize that your body can only handle so much stress. And if you overload it with stress in the gym, you're going to be fucked. So you need to have the proper dose, which is usually high intensity, hard workouts, intense workouts, 2 to 4 days per week, tops. The other days of the week, Now, this doesn't mean it's easy, but they're less intense. And you need to pick and choose what you're chasing. So a lot of people will think that like I'm going to train like an athlete, like, but they're only see like a snapshot. Like this person does this for their workouts, so I'm going to do this. How long did that person do that workout? They're probably changing their workouts every 4 to 8 weeks. You're going to do it for the next like forever. You're going to do every. Do you know what their in season, like in season, postseason, preseason, like what all that training's all different. Like if you see an athlete, you're like, oh, this football player does this, like, yeah, for this amount of time, and then the body recovers and they change things up, get an adaptation and move on. Don't just pick a workout because an athlete's doing it. One, you're if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not a professional athlete. So why the fuck are you doing a workout that a professional athlete's doing who's been training for in this sport for 20 plus years just because they're doing that and it might not be that intense for them. So this was an example I brought up of when we're talking like moderate workouts or something, a 4 mile run for a marathoner is not intense. Like an easy 4 mile run for them, like let's say for a marathoner, like 8 to 10 minutes per mile, like 4 miles, like not, that's not that intense. Give it to a powerlifter, yeah, that's fucking intense. Flip it like a recovery workout, working up for a squat workout. Let's say a dynamic workout for a powerlifter, not super recovery, but not super intense. It's a dynamic workout where they're working on speed. Not super intense for the marathoner. Like just give that to them. They've never done before. That's gonna be fucking intense. Even though it might only be 40 or 50% of their max bar weight, that's gonna be intense. They're gonna be sore as fuck from it. So when we're talking moderate workouts or easy workouts, doesn't necessarily mean like super easy, but what adaptations are we chasing? And when you look at someone else doing it, they've been doing it for a long time. That workout that they're doing might not be that intense for them. It might be pretty easy. You're just not at that level yet or ever, depending on what your goals are. I'm never going to be one to ever do, oh, I'm going to go out and do an easy 10 mile run today. Yeah, those days are long gone. Actually, those were never days. Like I got up to 10 mile runs and those were long days, not easy days. Um, so other stress management skills, deep breathing, like 60 seconds is all you need. That's where I don't have time bullshit. You can find 60 seconds. Shut the fuck up. 60 fucking seconds and it will make you more productive. So you're trying to grind away and you can't focus. Take a step back. Your brain, well, I said earlier, you can't focus like hyper focus on something for super, super long. It's like 45 to 90 minutes, depending on the person. Take a step back, take a deep breath, refocus, get back to it. You'll be more productive taking one step back to move like 3 or 4 steps forward instead of like slowly taking one step forward. Like take one step back and in the next 10 minutes, you'll take 4 steps forward, or you can just take one step forward. You pick what it is. Journaling. And when I mean journaling, like you can write like dear diary, like if that's your thing, cool. Not my thing. I like powerlifting and I like gratitude journals. 3 things that you're grateful for today. And what the fuck do you have to get done today for it to be a good day? Like write those things down. If you can check all that off, cool. That was a great day. Doesn't matter that was stressful. So those are going to be a couple things that you can do to help with that. Other things include meditation. Some people like guided meditation apps. You can use that. But you don't have to. You can just use regular stuff. You can just kind of do it yourself. And that can just be like deep breathing, which is kind of like meditation. Another one of my favorites is nature therapy. So, which is literally just like get the fuck out of nature. So hiking, just like sitting on a park bench, just getting outside is really beneficial to stress management. And we actually have research to show that. So that's another one of my favorites of where, again, if you're more like me, where you're not super woo woo, like we're not going to be burning sage and chanting mantras. Like that's not me. If that's you, cool. Like that shit does work. But that's not me. I'm going to feel like a goofball doing it. I understand it works and it works for some people. Cool. You have to find what works for you and what you can do consistently. Like I'm not going to do that shit consistently. I will jump into a a cold an ice bath, not a cold shower. I fucking hate those. But an ice bath I'll jump into, nature therapy I'll do, I'll power list. I will do those things consistently. Cool. That's reducing my stress load. Awesome. So nature therapy is great. Again, I do this every day. I make sure I walk the dog in the afternoon. It helps reset from like the second half of my work day. Like, okay, time to take my brain off or turn my brain off for a little bit, get out there and just enjoy nature for a little bit. Try not to check my phone, get some steps in, and then I come back and my brain's refreshed. Next half of the day, let's go. Um, Common question people get is or ask me is about powerlifting. So what you need to do is write down the five most important things for you to do that if you did them, it doesn't have to be five, it can be two, it can be three, but up to five, that if you check them all off, it was a good productive day. Yes, you have more tasks than that, but those are the most important tasks. If you do those, it was a good day. Everything else, if you don't get them done, it's like, well, it doesn't matter if it gets done today. Like if something's due today, like you have to do something today, there's no other option. Oh, that might go on your power list, especially if it takes more than like 2 minutes to do it. Like it's an actual thing, like sending out a email that's just like replying back to a simple email with a simple message, probably not going on there unless it's that important. Um, but doing a get slides ready for presentation tomorrow, yeah, that goes on the power list. So that there's examples, but you just have to get started and figure out what works for you. And there's no like hard when it comes to stress management. There's a few hard lines, but when we're actually implementing the things, figure out what the fuck works for you. You have to just play around with it and see what you do consistently. I will tell you what works well with me. Clients use acupuncture, they'll do yoga, they'll do when it comes to exercise, very low intensity stuff like yoga, um, easy Pilates, walking can help reduce stress. It's the more intense stuff, running, uh, weightlifting, that kind of stuff, hit workouts, those add stress. They're stressful to the body. That's why you get adaptations. Whereas like doing some stretching or foam rolling, not going to stress out the body. So you have to figure out what works for you when we're trying to reduce the stress load on your body. You have to figure out, hey, this I can do consistently. And it's really, really helpful. For me, I swear by powerlifting because it gets the shit out of my head. So I don't ruminate it on it. Like I don't think about it. Like I have to remember X, Y. Like, no, you know what's great? I get everything the fuck out of my head down on paper, and then I sleep like a baby at night because you're one thing people do is at night, I need to remember all this shit in the morning. Get the fuck out of your head because you're not going to fucking remember in the morning. You're going to wake up. I need to do blah, 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 blah. And sure, sometimes that does happen. I run a business. It does happen. And you're like, fuck, I totally forgot to do that. But more often than not, it's that happens. I come downstairs, like, what the fuck was I supposed to do today? And I look at the list, like, oh, yeah, I have to do all that today. Awesome. Anything that happens before my official work time, I put on my phone as an alarm. So that stuff doesn't go on there, but it gets it out of my head, which is great. And a lot of people deal with that where they're like, I'm so stressed out. I don't know how to fucking do like get it on paper, get it down on paper and organize that shit and figure out where, like, how long it's going to take you to do each thing. Like sometimes things are only like 5 minutes. Like I have so many things to do. Cool, you have a lot to do, but you'll get it done in 2.5 hours. Like, yeah, it's a lot of things. Task switching on the brain is not easy and it's very mentally draining, but it's 2.5 hours of shit. Like, it's not that much. It's really not. It's a lot of individual, like, it might be 10 items, but time wise, You're good. You'll be done. You'll have the rest of your day. So that's where it's powerful. And like, I have so many, yeah, just little things here and there. It feels like a lot, but honestly, it's just like send email, do this, call this person, do that, do this really quick, done. Like, really? That's what you're stressing out about? Yeah. Yeah. Once you got it down on paper, you realize it wasn't that bad. Yeah. Cool. You think you should do that more often? Yeah. Yeah. Do that more often. Do it every day. And it helps you because generally, the other thing it helps you do is say no. Don't, the another last thing, I should probably wrap this up soon, but I'm going. People overextend themselves. You have your kids sign in three different sports, you work full time, you have commitments to your family, you have commitments to your friends, you have um other, like you're trying to get to the gym, you're overextending yourself, and you can only burn the candle at both ends for so long until you're burnt the fuck out. And it's just not a fun way to live. Like a lot of parents don't have fun. Like I've met quite a few parents where they don't have any hobbies. They don't do it. Like their life is like work and kids. And they're usually very unfulfilled unless work fulfills them. But generally, more often than not, it doesn't. A couple entrepreneurs, yes, it does. But if you're just working like a corporate job, it was like, wow, your soul has been sucked out of you. So this is one thing where parents need to have something that they do for fun. And this is another stress management is do something you enjoy every single week. What makes you smile? Do that every single week. And when it comes to having kids, you need to do that thing, not do whatever the kids want to do all the time. Include them in what you want to do. Maybe it's baking. Maybe it's going hiking. For me, it's hiking, and I just strap Amelia to my back. Maybe, or maybe you need to sit down and have a conversation with your spouse of like, hey, I feel so much better when I do X, or I need this because it makes me happy. How can we implement it? And what do you need? So it needs to come both. Like you can't be like, hey, every day I need to spend 4 hours meditating. I'm going to work 8 hours. I'm going to meditate for 4 hours and do yoga. Good luck with the kids. Like, really? That's not going to work. And obviously, very exaggerated, but just to prove a point. So you need to talk to them like, hey, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to do this thing. You get Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're going to do your thing. Cool. Both people are pretty happy with it. And then you can adjust your schedules as, life likes to throw curveballs. But you need to sit down and have that conversation. Or maybe it's, hey, 8 p.m. You're going to work out 8:30. I'm going to work out whatever. Or you get, so common thing I saw with parents in the gym is if both people are trying to go, it's like 5:30 a.m. Dad shows up, mom shows up 6:30. And like dad would leave early to get back so mom might show up a little bit late, but we knew what was going on. So it was never a big deal when I worked in the gym. Like, hey, they're doing the swap. Or one works out in the morning, they're more of a morning person, they wake up early. And then I don't want to pick on mom there, but more often than not it was the guy waking up early more often than not, and then mom would come in the evening. But whichever one, I'm not a morning person, but neither is my wife. So I am taking the morning shift moving forward. Probably why it's stuck in my head. But one person picks the morning, one person picks the evening. So you need to talk like, hey, these things are important, and you need to have fun with the things you like. Like do the things you like and make you happy every single week that are separate from your kids' activities. And that doesn't mean exclude kids. You should have some time away from your kids, but and do something like include them with it. And if they like it, then it's a win-win. But it's like, hey, I'm going hiking, or we as a family are doing this. We as a family, and sometimes they don't want to do it but you need to do the stuff that makes you happy and enjoy this life. The one thing, don't include kids in like wine or whiskey tasting if they aren't of age. I gotta say that. So I know someone's gonna send a message like, so my hobbies, like as a joke, my hobbies, hopping from brewery to brewery, testing out local beers. Um, I don't think I should include my kids. Yeah, don't include your kids under 21 in that hobby. If they're over 21, you can include them, but don't include them in that hobby. Also goes back to our alcohol. Maybe get another hobby other than that. Um, so do those things. Have fun. Journal during the week. Make sure you're doing something fun that you enjoy every single week. I was really bad this week, and I did not. Actually, no, a little bit. We got to work on the garden this week, so we expanded. We added a 10-foot section of the garden, well, added 10 more feet to the garden lengthwise. I don't know what the square footage is there, but we expanded it out. So gardening is something I enjoy. So we got to work on that. And that helped reduce my stress. I was like, when are we going to fucking do it? My wife's pregnant. We're running out of time where she can help. And this one's like a 2-person job. So we got it done. It's like, sweet. I can handle the rest of it. This was just the hard part of like getting the wire out, getting the poles put in the ground, blah, blah, yeah, all that bullshit. So that happened this weekend. So it's trying to do like one thing you really enjoy every single week, or at least every other week. Have fun. And it doesn't have to be expensive, but have fun, journal, have stress management protocols in place, and get fucking sleep. So those are the 3 traps. I'm going to end it here. I think we're over an hour now. I have no idea how long this has been recording, but those are the different protocols 2 or 3 traps people get into, and having stress management protocols are going to help you with that, and then also not snacking every 20 minutes as well. But thanks for tuning in, guys. If you are interested in coaching, obviously we are looking for 5 new people. Also, we are putting on this upcoming weekend our first in-person event that will happen all over the country. So if you're interested in that, send me a message. There's like a liability waiver you have to sign. Shout out to Wilderness, that organization, for letting me know that, because I was like, definitely not something I thought of, but yes. We are doing that. So if you're interested in joining us in our first Cross the Nation hiking event, let me know now. That's not hiking across the nation. It's just everyone's doing the hike at the same time, and we're getting things kicked off like that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Any questions, go down to the show notes, shoot me a message on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Join the Facebook community if you like the podcast, you like the information out here. You can get more in the Facebook group, Wild Nutrition Secrets, and make sure to give it a 5-star review and leave a review. I do read those to help improve the show, and give the 5-star review